IRS commissioner, which is a really important job, potentially a dangerous job. Billy Long should not be the appointed commissioner of the IRS when Trump becomes president, because nobody should. And that's because there is no vacant position to nominate anyone to.
Trump appoints Billy Long to be the head of the IRS. This is going to change a huge amount of our government. Rachel Maddow over on MSNBC, of course, only tells lies about him in this giant segment. We're going to straighten her out on many points, many things where she's trying to mislead you. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. Let's go. I hope you've subscribed.
Today, it's Trump's pick to run the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS commissioner, which is a really important job, potentially a dangerous job. You might remember that the last time around with Trump, people who he decided were his enemies, people like the director and the deputy director at the FBI, they mysteriously found themselves randomly selected for really rare, really extra intrusive IRS audits. Now, ultimately, there was a review of that said it was all just a coincidence, nothing to see here.
Yeah, sometimes a coincidence really is just a coincidence. I don't have no idea if there's politics behind it. I only know that if Rachel Maddow said it, it's probably false.
Trump has also denied specific allegations from his White House chief of staff that Trump demanded repeatedly while he was president that the IRS should be sicked on people who he decided were his enemies and opponents. And yeah, that is some of what Richard Nixon is famous for, and not in a good way. Because of the potential for abuse in this particular job, because of our country's history with abuse in this particular job, you really want to make doubly, triply sure that the head of the IRS is somebody above reproach, somebody who won't do it if a president tries that kind of thing again. It's got to be a serious person with real expertise, real gravitas, somebody who won't be afraid to say no to some thin-skinned, vengeful, lawless president who might come along at some point.
So the current IRS, head of the IRS, is this Daniel Werfel. And she's saying that he must be trustworthy and can't target enemies. Now, Daniel Werfel is famous for politicizing the IRS. This is some of the stuff that he's done against conservatives. Werfel was appointed as the acting IRS commissioner in May of 2013 during a significant scandal involving the IRS's targeting of conservative groups, particularly those with the Tea Party or Patriot in their names. And I mean, it was thousands of them. For extra scrutiny when applied for tax-exempt status, although Werfel was not implicated in the initial targeting, his role was to manage and address the fallout. Critics argue that the IRS's response under Werfel's leadership was insufficient in terms of transparency and accountability. His tenure saw efforts to reform IRS practices, but skepticism persisted about the agency's political impartiality. They basically hired Werfel to cover up what Barack Obama ordered the IRS to do. He slow-walked this thing, which is exactly like what the FBI did with Hunter Biden, with all these investigations. They were there to cover up for the Democrats. I
mean, the last thing you want in this particular job is a fast-talking wheeler-dealer type.
Hey, and who get 25? Would you get $30,000? How about a 30? 35, 40, you would buy 45, 45, 50. How about a $50,000 now? 5 would buy 60, now 5, 65.
And so, behold, the literal auctioneer, a man who talks fast for a living, who Donald Trump has picked to be his commissioner of the IRS. Here are 5 things to know about Trump's IRS choice. Former Republican Congressman Billy Long. Thing number 1. On the qualifications of Billy Long to be head of the IRS. Is Billy Long a CPA, a certified public accountant? No. Is he an accountant? No. Does he have any background at all in any kind of accounting? No. Bookkeeping? No. Finance? No. How about math? No. Is he a tax lawyer? No. Does he have a college degree? No. Has he ever managed a large organization of any kind? The IRS has 85,000 employees and a $12 billion budget. Ever managed a large organization of any kind? No.
No, he doesn't need to manage a large organization. The whole goal is for him to shrink the organization, to get it down its tiny size. So it only needs to really have experience governing an organization that's very small, which the IRS needs to be shrunk. Those 80,000 agents that half of them Biden hired, get rid of them, cut them, fire them. That's his job. That's why he doesn't have to be an accountant. He has to be a cutthroat dealer. And by the way, him being an auctioneer is actually really cool. Here's one of his it's one of his most positive characteristics. Long has been described as a consummate people person, which could be advantageous for an agency like the IRS where public interaction is key. His reputation for being well respected on both sides of the aisle might suggest he could manage the agency with a focus on improving taxpayer relations and employee morale. When was the last time you ever felt good about the IRS? Never.
In addition to his work as an auctioneer, he has been a realtor. He's also been a radio talk show host, and he once ran a mini golf. That said, Billy Long has also moonlighted as a quasi-professional poker player, which prompted this rare political headline from Poker News. Quote, President-elect Donald Trump taps longtime poker player to head the IRS. So Billy Long has none of the qualifications for the job that every other IRS commissioner has had in the whole modern history of this agency. But he did serve in Congress. While he was in Congress, did he serve on any of the tax writing committees? No, he did not.
No, we want him to serve on the untax writing committee. By the way, on his personal business skills, she's really shortchanging him here. Billy Long has 32 years of experience in running his own businesses, particularly in real estate and as an auctioneer, which could be seen as beneficial for understanding the challenges small businesses face with tax compliance. His post-Congress career as a business and tax advisor further underscores his expertise, potentially making him sympathetic and effective in easing the burden of IRS regulations on small businesses. Look for this in the Trump administration. These are all people that are bringing empathy. That is, he's going to be able to understand the small businesses, whereas the current bureaucracy, they're always looking down their noses at these businesses as these people on high on a throne. That's not what Trump's doing. So this totally goes over Rachel Maddow's head because she's on MSNBC.
But he did get an award while he was in Congress, and it was an award related to taxes. It was called the, quote, Tax Fighter Award from something called the National Tax Limitation Committee. What is the National Tax Limitation Committee? When Forbes magazine went to look into it, they found that the website for this organization now points to what appears to be a gambling website based in Thailand. That makes it harder to figure out the selection criteria for this particular award. But Billy Long won it. While he was in Congress, he did repeatedly introduce legislation to abolish the IRS, to, in fact, abolish the income tax as a thing, and instead replace it with a huge 30% sales tax on everything you buy.
That's known as a VAT tax, a value-added tax on what you buy based on your consumption. It's a theory. It doesn't mean it'll go through, although I'm all for it if it means abolishing the IRS. What she's really afraid of is that his policies are to shrink or remove the IRS. If confirmed, Long could help steer the IRS towards a policy direction that aligns with conservative principles, such as reducing the agency's enforcement capabilities or focusing less on audits of the wealthy or everybody else, the middle class. If that were part of the administration's agenda, his past support for legislation to abolish parts of the tax code might indicate a desire to streamline or reform IRS operations. That's Trump's big mandate, is to reform the government. Who here wants to see the IRS reformed? I do, as in slash 99% of it.
There's something else there besides the not a real thing, fake CTBA tax credential. Right there in his Twitter bio, it says, quote, DM me to save 40% on your taxes. Seriously, that is still there right now on his Twitter bio, even after he has been named to be IRS commissioner by the incoming president. DM me to save 40% on your taxes.
She's making a great case for me to call him right now. I want 40% of my taxes reduced. Thanks for the advertising, Rachel Maddow.
Here's the current IRS commissioner testifying in Congress. And what he's doing in this testimony he's actually asking Congress to get rid of one particular tax program, to close down a specific tax program because it had produced what the IRS called a, quote, gold rush of bogus tax claims. And that one particular tax program, which the IRS wants shut down because so many people are applying to it in bogus terms, that is what Billy Long does for a living now.
Let's get back to Daniel Werfel, how inappropriate he is as the head of the IRS compared to Billy Long. Werfel confirmed before Congress that black taxpayers are audited significantly higher rates than other Americans. That's on your watch. On his watch, the IRS significantly went after more black taxpayers. No wonder why black men supported Trump so much, which raised questions about racial bias within the IRS audit selection algorithms. This admission was based on research from universities and the Treasury Department, stirring controversy over the equality of IRS enforcement practices.
He very briefly became famous during the first Trump impeachment, when this photo circulated of him appearing to have a wad of cash sticking out of his suit pocket while he was waiting to give his speech in support of Trump on the House floor. But what looked like cash sticking out of his pocket is actually fake money. Not real money, but fake money that he apparently carries around and gives out all the time. It's a fake $45 bill with Trump's face on it. Get it? Because he was the 45th president? Billy Long likes to say that that's the only bill he ever passed in Congress, which is very funny and also true. And also it's a joke about him being ineffectual in Congress. And it's also a joke about counterfeiting.
No, he obviously did not really counterfeit. I think it's adorable. I think it shows he's a huge Trump fan. Trump's going to like that. And I think a guy that never passes a bill and reduces the amount of bills is a good thing. But talk about a bad thing, that Daniel Werfel, current IRS commissioner who has to go. There have been allegations that Werfel, along with Attorney General Merrick Garland, may have committed perjury based on testimony from IRS whistleblowers. These whistleblowers suggested the IRS and the Department of Justice, the corrupt DOJ, potentially mishandled cases related to high-profile investigations. Whoops, we lost the paperwork on Hunter Biden, including those involving Hunter Biden. This had led to accusations of political manipulation within the IRS, though these claims remain contentious and subject to ongoing investigations because we haven't been able to have an investigation because Merrick Garland has covered for him so much. That, Rachel Maddow, is why this guy has to get canned and replaced with the good and wonderful Billy Long.
No, Billy Long should not be the appointed commissioner of the IRS when Trump becomes president, because nobody should. And that's because there is no vacant position to nominate anyone to. The IRS already has a commissioner who is currently in the middle of a 5-year term that doesn't end until 2027. The IRS isn't like any other government agency. It's not like, the State Department, where a new president's going to have a new foreign policy, and so he gets to nominate a new Secretary of State when he gets sworn in. The IRS isn't like that. It is just a technocratic institution that is supposed to crunch the numbers and carry out the job of collecting taxes in a technocratically efficient and sufficient way.
Ah, those efficient technocrats. Daniel Werfel, that guy, during his initial tenure as acting commissioner, Werfel admitted that the IRS continued to use inappropriate beyond the lookout, BOLO lists for processing tax-exempt applications, which contributed to the targeting scandal. This acknowledgement was part of his effort to overhaul the IRS's practices, but it also highlighted ongoing issues with the agency's procedures that they're targeting conservatives. Be on the lookout for, white nationalists and conservative Catholics. We know how this runs as he covers up for Hunter Biden. This guy's got to go. He's going to go January 20th, last day. Bye-bye. We'll say hello to Billy Long. Hopefully one day we'll say goodbye to Rachel Maddow being on the air at MSNBC, but she provides too much good content for us. Thanks for watching. Check out another video. If you want to support this channel, I'm Doug in Exile.